So in this presentation, I analyze learning from others, learning in a social context through a developmental lens. Rather than just describing what the teachers did, I frame these classrooms as a deliberately constructed structure built on cognitive, social, and moral development theory using Piaget, Vygotsky, moral development theory, and ideas from the distracted mind. I examine what supports the structure, what strengthens it, and what threatens it. So, the foundation of both classrooms is constructivism. Students don't just absorb knowledge, they build it. Okay. In Yvonne Scott's Butterfly Project, students investigate, collaborate, and generate understanding through inquiry. Learning occurs through interaction, but not passive listening. Um, for Vygotsky's zone of proximal development, it reminds us that growth happens just beyond independent ability with support from teachers and peers. So scaffolding makes independence possible. So without this foundation of active construction and social interaction, our structure can't stand. So constructivism is the foundation and dialogue is the structural support. So in both classrooms, teachers engage students um, in instructional conversation. And Barlow's managed academic dialogue creates intellectual tension. Students defend claims, they reconsider ideas, and they respond to multiple perspectives. So, according to Vygotsky, language is the primary tool for cognitive growth. Thought begins socially and then becomes internal. So, dialogue is not an accessory to instructions. It's actually what holds our structure upright. It keeps the beams up. Okay. So, a strong structure must also align with what it can bear. Okay. So when we look at Piaget, he reminds us that instruction must match developmental readiness. Okay. So we have to look at what the students can handle. So Scott's students demonstrate concrete operational thinking, reasoning logically about observable systems. Barlow's students show emerging formal reasoning, so they are engaging in abstraction, hypothetical thinking, and moral complexity. Cognitive conflict, so prior understanding is being challenged, forces students to recognize their thinking. So effective instruction does not force premature abstraction. It builds within their developmental readiness. Okay. The roof of the structure is moral reasoning. So in Barlow's classroom, discussion moves beyond content. Students evaluate justice, power, and ethical responsibility. Kohlberg's theory explains how students progress from authority-based reasoning toward principled evaluation of justice. Dialogue requires perspective taking. So they have to consider different or competing viewpoints. And this fosters empathy as the students examine the human impact of decisions. So when students debate ideas, they are constructing a moral framework. They're not just learning history. Okay. Language is the energy that powers our structure. Can't have a building or a house without electrical wiring. Okay. So academic vocabulary provides precision for complex thinking. Discourse makes reasoning visible and open to revision. And internalization transforms shared dialogue into independent thought. Without language rich interaction, the structure probably would stand, but it wouldn't sustain any growth. Okay. So a well-designed classroom must also be accessible to all learners. We need visual supports that are going to reduce cognitive load, sentence frames, scaffold academic language, structured roles promote equitable participation, processing time respects cognitive diversity, explicit norms create predictable, inclusive discourse. For me, one of the easiest ways that I make sure that my classroom is accessible to all learners is this headset. Using a microphone that is close to my mouth allows students, not just those that have hearing impairments, but all students to hear and understand my speech better. Okay. So that's one way that I try to make sure that my learning is accessible to others. Okay. So it's important to remember that universal design doesn't lower expectations. It just makes rigorous learning possible for all of our students. Okay. So even strong structures have environmental threats. Okay. So the distracted mind explains that multitasking is really task switching. So this reduces depth of processing. Our working memory has limits, so cognitive overload will disrupt reasoning. Um, Fragmented attention also prevents sustained thinking, which is really necessary for internalization and moral reflection. So the classrooms in this video succeed because they protect attention through purposeful dialogue and sustained engagement. Okay. So when we step back, this model shows to us both strength and tension. Its strengths include deep engagement, socially constructed understanding, and developmentally aligned rigor. But its tensions include time demands, participation balance, and dependence on skilled facilitation. Okay? So it's important to remember that strong design doesn't get rid of tension, but it manages it intentionally. Okay? So design matters. Okay? Learning isn't spontaneous, it is structured. Every question asked, every norm established, every pause for processing shapes cognitive and moral development. Okay, so as educators, we are not just instructors, we are architects of thinking. Okay, and of course, references. I do want to point out that those cute little blueprint visuals were created using ChatGPT. I tried for a very long time to use Procreate to make them myself, but it just wasn't working. So ChatGPT for the win on that one. Thank you all.